When I was a kid in Toronto, I always started my day off with a bowl or two of cereal. It was also my after-school snack. Cereal was a big part of how I grew up as a kid in North America. It wasn't until I'd visit Hong Kong during my college years that I'd start off with a bowl of congee and dumplings. After that, I started my day off with dumplings whenever I could. Living back and forth between worlds and customs, I always occupied that space in between where I didn't seem to fit into either. In Hong Kong, I didn't have a firm enough grasp of the language to be a local, and in Canada and the States, I obviously didn't look the part of one. I always felt that being in between cultures made me just weaker versions of each. It wasn't until recently that I realized that it only made me something that was just different altogether. I was familiar to a lot of people, but really only understood more deeply by a few. In a way, this dish, what seemed at first just a whimsical way of combining the two, illustrates the results of that story. Once a kid, trying to fit in as best he could, adapting to the customs as best he can, but still obviously different. And then when he tried to go back to rediscover that identity that he tried so hard to hide, that he found that there was no going back to the changes that he made when he tried to fit in. A TikTok friend of mine, Boy, an artist and historian, did a video about how people view types of art. He said the act of viewing and appreciating art is universal, but not all art should be looked at and appreciated in the same way. And that stuck with me. I think food can definitely be art, but because of the role it always serves, it's not always art. It's like fashion in a sense. Sometimes it's art, but not always. Even when it is, it's still serving an unrelated base function. I've eaten at a lot of fancy restaurants, and doing that I've noticed something. No matter where you are in the world, they often use the same thing. There's a lot of something with Iberico ham, there's a lot of something with some caviar, a little bit of something with uni, followed by a little something with foie gras. Today, truffles happen to be in season, and for an extra $100, you can have a bunch of it shaved right in front of you. Thin shavings of mushrooms hitting your plate like the waiter handing it out was a baller throwing out money at a strip club. It didn't matter where in the world I was, they always had these things. It's almost like the chefs felt like they had to include it in their menus, otherwise how else are they going to justify the price tag? I've busted my budget for dinners a few times. I told myself that in a way I was learning from the best of the best. A lot of these places wanted to show off the history of the chef. A lot of these places followed really beautiful narratives or had windows into culture. A lot of these places forced a narrative, and a lot of these places were flashy for flashy's sake. But food as art doesn't have to be expensive. Instagram food was big before the pandemic, and you had these wildly creative and beautiful? I guess beautiful the word? Well-designed. I think well-designed is better. But a lot of this food doesn't really try to say much, just photograph well, and some of them tasted all right. I guess what makes a difference is if you're trying to say something more than what you're just presenting. I don't know if I'm at that point where I can do that, but I like the idea of trying to do it in the way that more people can afford it. At the very least, whether I manage to say anything or not, it's gotta taste good.
So where's your bowl? Because we call it cereal, I'm inclined to scoop as many into the spoon like I eat real cereal.